Space is like an unexplored realm, and unless you're an astronaut, most of what we know about it comes from what we hear. But here's the thing, not everything we hear is true. So today we've decided to separate fact from fiction and debunk 10 of the most common myths about space. So let's start with black holes at number 1. Contrary to what you may have heard, black holes behave just like any other massive object in space. It all comes down to something called escape velocity. See, to escape the sun's gravity, we'd need to go really fast at about 618 kilometers per second. But a black hole's event horizon, even light speed at 300,000 kilometers per second, won't let you break free. But the exciting part is that the farther you get from black hole, the easier it is to escape. Beyond the event horizon, black holes act like regular stars. So say if we swapped the sun with a black hole of the same mass, Earth would happily continue its orbit without any problems. Secondly, let's talk about how people think sun is a ball of fire. So scientifically speaking, fire needs fuel, heat and oxygen to burn. The sun has fuel since it's made of hydrogen and helium gas. Hydrogen is flammable but helium isn't. Now when it comes to heat, the sun also produces an incredible amount of heat, reaching a scorching 9,932 degrees. But here's the thing, there's no oxygen in space, so the fire triangle for sun remains incomplete. So in reality, the sun isn't a ball of fire. The heat and the light it emits are the result of something called thermonuclear fusion. Deep inside the sun, under intense pressure and heat, speedy hydrogen atoms come super close together. They collide and fuse, creating helium and releasing a massive amount of energy as gamma ray radiation. At the third spot, we have the star constellations and their actual distance. So the stars that make up constellations are often separated by tens or even hundreds of light years. Like for instance, the Orion might appear as a mighty warrior from Earth. If we were to observe from elsewhere in the galaxy, those stars would seem distant and unconnected. They vary in age, size, type, and brightness, and it's mostly by chance that we see them grouped together. So, while constellations may not be scientifically a significant group of stars, they still help astronomers remember the names and positions of stars by associating them with familiar objects or animals. Next up is the moon's dark side on number 4. Well, we can only see one side of the moon from Earth. But that does not mean the other side is in complete darkness. Just look at the moon's phases. During a full moon, the sides we see fully lit up, while the other side gets the darkness. But in other moon phases, we can only see a part of it, and the rest of the light is shining on the so-called dark side. So the first ever images of the far side of the moon were from the USSR Lunar 3 mission. And guess what? It was bathed in sunlight. Those pictures showed us that the so-called dark side of the moon is even lighter in color than what we see. So technically our side is the real dark side. Up next on our list at number 5 comes Mercury, which is labeled as the hottest planet of all. So Mercury does orbit really close to the sun, just 36 million miles away. But it's actually Venus that, despite orbiting nearly twice as far from the sun as Mercury, is the hottest planet out there with 462 degrees temperature. So how does Venus manage to be hotter? Well, it's the thick atmosphere made mostly of carbon dioxide which traps the heat in an insulating bubble. On the other hand, Mercury is a super thin atmosphere. So when Mercury turns away from the sun at night, the temperature plunges to a minus 180 degrees. On the 6th spot, let's talk about if we can explore in space without a spacesuit. So without Earth's atmospheric pressure, funny things can happen to our body, like water in your tissues would evaporate, causing swelling. However, you may have a different problem altogether. You might lose your consciousness instead. In fact, there was an unfortunate incident during a NASA test in 1966, when a spacesuit technician experienced this. But luckily the technical issue was restored within 30 seconds and he recovered. On number 7, we have the myth of Saturn being the only planet with a ring. But factually, Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune have their own rings too. We just didn't know about them until the Voyager mission in the 1970s and 80s. And the thing is that Saturn rings are most visible and stunning from Earth, and the other planets' rings are just thinner and harder to see with the naked eye. Up next, at the 8th spot, let's talk about meteoroids being called hot. Well, when meteoroids enter the atmosphere, they get super hot on the outside, just like searing a steak. But actually, the inside stays cool. It's only the rock surface that melts and forms a thin crust, about as thick as a millimeter. And by the time it reaches the Earth, it's only slightly warm to the touch. So no, you won't get your fingers burned if you find a meteoroid. Then on number 9, we have the Great Wall of China, which some people say is so massive that it can be seen from space. Well, it's kind of true and kind of not. So yes, the wall is super long, like over 13,000 miles long. But it's just not that wide at all. It's only around 20 feet wide at the base. Plus, it's made from material that blends in with the surroundings. So when you're cruising in low Earth orbit about 99 miles up, you can't spot it with your naked eye. Maybe with a ginormous camera lens or in perfect weather conditions, who knows? But for now, the myth remains a myth. And finally, the most common one, that stars twinkle. We all know that nursery rhyme got us all thinking that stars are like little twinkling lights up there. And we hate to break it to you, but it's just an illusion. You see, stars actually appear steady from afar. The light they emit travels through our atmosphere, which is made up of swirling gas molecules. And it's these molecules that cause the light to shift and waver a bit, hence the illusion of twinkling. So it's not the stars themselves that are twinkling, but the way the light interacts with our atmosphere. And with that, it's a wrap on our list of 10 most common myths about space. So, what was your favorite myth or fact? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, give us a big thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on our new content. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.